Hi, everyone. Hello. So hi, I'm Nita Raghawansi, in case some of you haven't met me yet. I'm the new Executive Director of Folk Alliance International. Thank you so much. Thanks. So I am thrilled to introduce you to our very special speaker today. She's a fabulous force to be reckoned with, and you'll have so much fun in the reckoning. Originally from Louisiana and now having lived in Nashville for over 20 years, she is a deeply revered artist who performs at the Grand Ole Opry and is an extraordinary and moving songwriter and an author and an activist and a Grammy nominee and an International Folk Music Award winner. And her songs have been covered by so many performers, including Tim McGraw, Blake Shelton, Kathy Mattea, Boy George, and Jimmy Buffett. Her songs have purpose, lots of purpose. And as she told us yesterday in the Songcraft panel, in reference to a Woody Guthrie quote that I think we all know, she says, "You don't have to hit them over the head with a guitar, you break their hearts." And she has. She brings a room to tears. As Amy Ray of the Indigo Girls said, Gauthier has an uncanny ability to combine songwriting craft with a seeker's vulnerability and a sage's wisdom. Here to give us insight and inspiration as she talks about her book, Saved by a Song, Mary Gauthier pulls the curtain back on the artistry of songwriting in a part memoir, part philosophy of art, part nuts and bolts of songwriting, celebrating the redemptive power of song to inspire and bring together seemingly different kinds of people. Interviewing her is an amazing folk radio personality and folk DJ Hall of Famer, the incomparable Marilyn Ray Beyer. FAI community, please put your hands together and welcome Marilyn Ray Beyer and Mary Gauthier. Come on up. Love it. I'm super.
Hi. Well, it's a thrill to be here, but it would be thrilling to be alone in the room with my old friend Mary Gauthier. I asked her, and she said it was okay to start with a quote from Pete Seeger, something I heard recently from Matt Watroba. Thank you. "My main purpose in life is not to put songs in people's ears, but to put them on their lips. I think we're less human beings when we don't participate. And this nation is being turned into a nation of spectators. No, you want to do something in this world, not just watch other people doing things. And singing, well, singing can lead to other things." Yeah. Well, here we all are, together, participating, sharing our stories, filling in the blanks that you thought you knew, and finding where these stories lead us, right? Now, I first met Mary Gauthier in 1995 or 96, I guess. I'd known of Mary because the radio station I worked at, WUMB, used the Dixie Kitchen restaurant as a catering service from time to time. And so this was before Mary's debut album, Dixie Kitchen, came out. And I'm telling this story because we all know where Mary's at today, right? Well, then she was still doing the open mics, and you'll read about that in the book. She'd organized a collection of her fellow open micers to create a compilation called Show Up, Sign Up, and Play. And on the day of that live at noon interview on WUMB, she corralled 4 of these singer-songwriters to come in and do an in the round, right? Just like, you hear this all the time. And we asked Mary, we were going to set up a mic so that she could make comments. No, she did not want that. She laid down on the floor of the studio at the feet of her singer-songwriter friends and she was wearing what she was then renowned for, a gas station attendant's shirt. And this particular one had Jerry embroidered over the pocket. That's the Mary Gauthier I first met and fell madly in love with. She wanted to shine the figurative radio spotlight on others. She wanted to reach out to make sure that other people heard these stories. And now, in Saved by a Song, she tells her own story out loud in order to reach us. And by the way, you want to do yourself a favor and get the audio edition of this book so that you can hear her fabulous narrating voice as well as the songs. But get the hard copy too, so that you can sit there with these words and these stories in your own time and in your own space and really find your stories in Saved by a Song. Now, Mary, I'm going to do a spoiler alert at the very end of the book, Mary. You talk about what it means to be a troubadour.
I do.
You
Yeah,
do, and will you
yeah.
tell us?
Yeah, a good place to start. I forgot about that shirt named Jerry.
I think you had one named Doug as well,
I
didn't
did
you?
have Doug.
Do you got it?
Yeah. So I'm a troubadour. Troubadouring is an approach to music. It's not a genre. Inside the word troubadour, I hear the word true. Troubadours, we tell stories, true to feeling. People need stories to make meaning out of their lives, and songs are how most people get their stories these days. Modern-day troubadours are self-perceived outsiders who write songs about underdogs, unnoticed or marginalized folks, and struggles not often heard in mainstream music. In an age of misinformation, disinformation, and lies, we are the wandering minstrels who compose and perform songs to tell the truth. And like the stories of old, it is songs that help teach us how to live. Troubadours play in theaters, listening rooms, nightclubs, bars. We play in people's homes, yards. I've played in people's barns. Of course, we play folk festivals. We do live streams. We all perform where we can, when we can. Troubadours are not the kind of songwriters who try to write songs for hit-driven music marketplaces. No, we are the other kind. When people ask me what kind of songs I write, I tell them, well, I just write real ones. I'm called to write songs that help folks check in, not check out. And while my songs will likely not be hits, they feed me in ways that fame and money never could. My work is more of a ministry than a show business venture. But there is, of course, a show business component in every successful ministry. So I've offered opinions and observations on songwriting in this book with no small amount of terror. I'm no more qualified to write about songwriting than any other songwriter who's made it their life's work. Look, I can't read music or notate it properly. I'm not sure of what key I'm in half the time or even what chord I'm playing. I have no idea what key I sing in it, and I've never figured out why that mattered. I've carved my career from focused effort, trusting my gut, and sitting at the feet of the masters. I'm a teacher now, but I'm also a student because there's always more to learn about music and song. I've played in dozens of countries, listened to thousands of people's stories. I've heard late-night confessions and held strangers in my arms as they wept. No matter a person's nationality, age, race, gender, sexuality, politics, religion or lack of religion, human emotion is the same everywhere. People are lonely, yearning for meaningful connection. People need hope. People need to believe in something, and most folks are hurting. Many are traumatized and afraid. People need love, but love, damn, love is hard. Love is harder than so many expected. I feel the same way. It's why I became a troubadour.
Hey, let's hear it for all of the troubadours in the room, too. Thank you for being here and sharing your stories. Oh, well, Mary, the title of the book is Saved by a Song.
Right.
And, shall we talk a little bit about being saved by songs?
Yeah, I really think that music and song for me has been a form of salvation. And I'm sure there's people here who feel that way too. I mean, we spoke to that in your life backstage when we were doing our little prep. I had a very, very serious problem with drugs and alcohol for most of my life. I got arrested for drunk driving opening night of the Dixie Kitchen restaurant, a restaurant I had convinced wealthy people to put money into. And my investors were the people I had to call from the Dorchester jail. And that night, July 1990, was the last night I had a drink. I've been sober ever since. And thank you. And I needed something, and jambalaya wasn't going to be it. I needed something that had more purpose in my life, and recovery gave me that. But I needed to invest my soul into something other than the restaurant business. And when I went to an open mic at Club Passim with one of my waitresses, and I saw her transform from a clumsy waitress into a really good singer-songwriter, I saw it. It's like, I want to get on that stage and play a song. I had never written one. I had a guitar, but I hadn't picked it up in years. I was busy with the restaurants. And so, I mean, it's a long answer to the question, why'd you call your book Saved by a Song? I started spending all my free time either working on songs or going to open mics. And in the Boston area, there's a lot of opportunity to play. I found open mic after open mic, and one for every night of the week, some nights of the week, 2 open mics. And I found a new community of people to hang out with, and most of them were not drug addicts and alcoholics. I went to my 12-step meetings, I stayed sober, and I really, really invested my time and energy into the music community in the Boston area. The old Vienna Coffee House, the Cantab Lounge, Club Passim. And I started pushing myself to write a song and get on that stage and play it. And it became...
And it wasn't always pretty.
It was awful.
I mean, some of us were witness.
To this day, I'm so glad.
It's always pretty now, baby.
There were no iPhones yet. There is no video proof or audio proof of just how hard I sucked. I was really not good at it, but nobody starts out good at it. You get good at it by doing it. And it became something over a period of years that I felt was taking up more and more and more of my heart energy, my soul energy, and my passion. And so after about 10 years of playing open mics, I made the Dixie Kitchen restaurant, named Dixie Kitchen CD, named it after my restaurant. I made another CD after that called The Drag Queens and Limousines. I got invited to play at the Newport Folk Festival, and I knew after that I had to do this. And this was all, and I didn't know it at the time, saving me. Not only was I staying sober, I was getting happy. You couldn't tell by my songs. For the longest time, I used songs as a method of getting the poison out. You see, I look at songs as a form of alchemy. You know, what an art form. It could take the worst day of your life and turn it into something beautiful that helps other people to know they're not alone. To me, that's alchemy. It takes something awful and turns it into something useful and beautiful. And I just fell in love with it, and I've not fallen out of love with it. And to me, that is salvation, something that I can love for the rest of my life.
Well, Mary, in her songs, will challenge you to dig inside yourself. And backstage, she challenged me. So I will tell very briefly how reading, especially those early chapters about the time when we first knew one another, saved me. In the fall of 1994, actually September of 1994, I had reached the point where I knew damn well that my children and my husband would be far better off without me. So I very methodically began planning my suicide. And one day I could not stop crying. So I opened up the newspaper to get my mind off things and found are you depressed? Join our study. And started seeking a little help, and it wasn't doing any good. But then in November, a woman named Gail Finney said, they're having auditions for folk DJs at WUMB. Come with me, let's go do this. And I was introduced to the community that Mary was telling you about. And since January of 1995, I have identified as a folk DJ. And that is literally how songs saved my life. And I have not told a lot of people that story, and now I've told hundreds of people. Thanks to you, Mary. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
I had the great honor of doing a panel with Ricky Lee Jones in New Orleans for the Tennessee Williams Literary Festival. And Ricky's got an incredible book called Last Chance Texaco. And she's got a new record coming out too, and it's jazz standards, and she's in a really good place. I can't wait to hear this record, but we've become sort of text friends, and she said something that it stuck with me. She said, Mary, books are really beautiful ambassadors. And I think that that's true of songs too, that the purpose that you found through being an ambassador of music and song gave your life purpose.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, the job. Let me read another thing from the book. Another thing I just want to throw out there is that the music industry is really about 80 years old. And I'm sure there's somebody in here who will correct me and tell me exactly how old it is on social media in my feed after this gathering. But it's around 80 years old. Prior to that, I think people knew this, that music and song is how you sing people back from the edge. You bring them back with music and song. That's what it's for. But then we got into this time period of our life where people figured out how to monetize it.
Oh, you're talking about the recording industry
Yeah.
versus sharing Stephen Foster songs on sheet music so everybody would sing it in their family parlor.
Yeah.
But yeah, making an industry out of it.
Yeah,
You're
singing
right.
together so that we connect. There is something that resonates when we sing together, and being in resonance is the opposite of trauma. When you're highly traumatized, you can't get in resonance because the trauma acts as a block. And yet, music and song, in my experience, has been a healing art form that can help disassemble that traumatic block and get us back in resonance. So I'm going to read something that I think is applicable here. People ask me if I think songs can change the world. And my answer is, I believe that. I really do. And here's how I think it works. A song has the power to change a heart, by creating empathy. And a changed heart has the power to change a mind. And when a mind changes, a person changes. And when people change, isn't that how you change the world? It's one song, one heart, one mind, one person at a time. Bruce Springsteen said, music is a repair shop. Basically, I'm a repairman. Of course, the boss knows. The boss is right. Songs have the power to repair hearts and help heal souls. That's why this book's called Saved by a Song.
You know, Mary, something that, since so many folks in the room are performers, I would love your take on something that you do well. You make it look effortless, but I'm sure it's not only from the heart, but also from your consciousness, and that is how we create the space when we are singing our truth, how you create the space for the audience to be active listeners, to be involved in the song. You know, tapping your foot, clapping along, singing along in a chorus, those are the obvious ways, but there are also emotional ways that a song listener is a song participant. And I know that you do that because I've seen it over these decades.
Well, there's lots of ways of doing that. Pete Seeger was the master of singing a song twice simultaneously. He would sing it, then tell you the words for the next line so you could sing it with them. It was this thing that was masterful, getting people to sing along. But I think the best way to answer that question is to tell the story. Really early on, when I was still learning how to be a songwriter and how to do that thing you just asked me about, how do I do this? I knew that's what I needed to be doing, but I didn't know how to do it. And I got shown how to do it at the old Vienna Coffee House. Anybody here remember that place? Outside of Boston. I think it was in a town called Westboro, Massachusetts. It was a place where, in my mind, the really famous folk singers hung out because they got played on WUMB radio. And to me, at that point, meeting someone who had been on the radio was, I couldn't even talk to him. It's like, oh my God, it's a star. I can't even, don't look at me, you know?
Oh my gosh. Ellis Paul, who knows, right?
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally, he was a star to me. He still is, by the way. But it made me nervous to be around them because they were successful and they were doing this thing that I desperately, desperately wanted to do. And I'm sure there's songwriters in this room right now who feel that way. That you desperately, desperately want to do this and you're trying to figure out how. Well, that night, the lesson came in the form of an older guy. Now, I started this in my mid-30s. I started it in my mid-30s. So that's older in general for the music business. And this guy was probably in his mid-50s. In your mid-30s, your mid-50s seem a lot older. Now I would trade it in a heartbeat. And to me, he was an old guy from where I was sitting. And he was quite heavy. And he was wearing overalls and he had a straw hat. And his name got called and he was to play one song at the open mic. And he stood in front of the mic and all of us in the audience were people who signed up to play the open mic. So we weren't there to listen. We were forced to listen in order to get our opportunity to play, which is pretty much how open mics work. It's tougher than an audience of teenagers. Self-involved songwriters who are ready to play and nervous about their, 4.5 minutes up there. They're not really there to listen. And this guy, we all kind of went, oh, and it was late. I mean, the O Vienna would get 80 or 90 people to sign up in one night. Do the math, at 5 minutes apiece. That's 450 minutes. You know how many hours that is sitting there? So it was late, and we were tired, and this old guy, heavy, straw hat, even had mud on his boots. I came to refer to him as the farmer in the hat. He got up there, and he's this. He's a nervous wreck. We were all like, oh, God, this is going to suck. And he was just, he couldn't get his footing. He didn't know how to, Robert, the MC there, had to plug his guitar, and he didn't know how to do that. And he was wrecked. And we were not interested. We were bored. And he started singing, and he really couldn't sing, and he really couldn't play. And his voice was shaky because he was nervous, also because he was inherently just pitchy. And he got to the chorus, and the chorus, I'll remember this to this day, and I'll never forget it. The chorus is, I'm gonna walk in the water till my hat floats away. He just won over this audience here. So it wasn't the same technique as Pete, which is to sing the same song twice simultaneously. His technique wasn't a technique at all. He was just honest. And what happened in that room and what happened to me was I believed him. And once I believed him, he had me. Because like you, I know that feeling. We're going to do our walk in the water till the hat floats away dance at some point in our life if we live long enough. And yet he was standing on stage, so he didn't do it. And he was brave enough to sing it. And in that moment, we respected him and loved him. He opened our hearts. That's alchemy. Did we care that he was old? Not anymore. Did we care that he was fat? Not anymore. Did we care that he could sing? No. Did we care that he only really knew 3 chords? It didn't matter. What mattered was he was vulnerable and honest, and we believed him, and to me that was what I was trying to do. And he showed me the way. The door in my mind opened to, okay, I don't have to be young and gorgeous, because that's not on the drop-down menu of possibilities anymore. I teach songwriting a lot. I work with songwriters a lot. And what I always tell them is that your job is to show your insides on the outside so that listeners can see their insides. That's, I think, the strategy that I use and that I believe in.
One way that music really grabs you is by catching you by surprise. And I want to read you just 3 sentences out of Mary's book. And I'll never find it, even though I have lots of Post-it notes, so I typed it out. But what you're saying is that the way we make space for people to take in the song and make it their own, and then feel free to express their own truth, is to tell the truth. Write the truth. Don't worry about who you will scare. And then you write, there is no need to write about things everyone can already say. The job of a songwriter is to write things that are difficult to say. It is an ancient practice, singing what we dare not say.
I like that passage, and I don't want to give you the impression that everything is gloom and doom. Sometimes it's really hard to say, I think you're gorgeous. I love you. That's vulnerable. That's, wow, that's showing your insides on the outside. Or, I really love your mind. I would love to have coffee with you. Can we be friends? That's hard to say. It doesn't have to be these life and death moments of suicide and tragedy and pain and grief and loss, although that's part of it. It's, we were talking before the panel yesterday with Joy and Layla that sometimes the songwriters just sort of think they got this small little box of sad crayons. Remember the little 6-pack? Or even worse, the 4-pack? And the rich kid has the 177. That they get to open it with multiple times, lifting. I think of human emotion as the 177 pack. All of it's fair game. The challenge of the songwriter is just to approach all of it with honesty. And that's hard. And it's going to scare you. For me, I think I know it's getting good when I start to get scared. It's like, should I say this? And the voice goes, your job is to say that. Like, I don't know, I'm going to look like an asshole. You are an asshole. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that for a minute there.
Well, we went to all the trouble of having the crew set up the guitar. Do you want to sing a scary song for us? Thanks to the fabulous sound crew and everyone here at Folk Alliance who has set us up for all you troubadours.
So the book starts with this song, actually. The book starts with the flashing lights in my rear view mirror, and I'm about to be pulled over for drunk driving on Dorchester Avenue, July 1990. And I thought that was when my life ended, and it turns out that's kind of when my life began. But then again, every ending is a new beginning, isn't it? I didn't know that then. So about 5 years after I got sober, I started writing songs. And this song is one of my very early songs. And it's a song that talks about a character who was me and not me dealing with drinking. It's called I Drink. Well, he'd get home at 5:30, fix his drink and sit down in his chair, pick a fight with mama, complain about us kids getting in his hair. At night he'd sit alone and smoke. I'd see his frown behind his lighter's flame. Now that same frown's in my mirror. I got my daddy's blood inside my veins. Fish swim, birds fly, daddy's yell, mama's cry. Old men setting things. I drink. Chicken TV dinner, 6 minutes on defrost and 3 on high. Beer to wash it down with another, then some whiskey on the side. It ain't so bad alone here. It don't bother me that every night's the same. I don't need another lover. I fly, lovers leave by and by. Old men sit and think. I drink, oh I know what I am, but I don't give a damn. Fish swim, birds fly, dead as shell, mamas cry. Old men sit and think. I drink.
Well, needless to say, that was part of the world's introduction to Mary Gauthier's writing, knocked us all out. And then things rapidly raced along, and a very sad day came for me and all of us who loved her in Boston. Mary, you went to Nashville. And if we could veer off just a little, there were, by the way, fantastic story of how the lyrics to I Drink take shape in the book, a revelatory to anybody who is a poet, short story writer, songwriter, a clinic. But then once things really got rolling for you, it was time to go to Nashville. And I know, I mean, this is the Mecca. I was just talking to Claire, a young songwriter who's probably in the room, and yeah, Nashville, that's where I'm at now, right? You want to go to the Emerald City, whichever it may be, LA for you perhaps, or New York or Nashville. How does that change take place for a troubadour?
Well, it was a process. I didn't wake up and do it spontaneously. I had
Really?
I had incredible amount of fear about it. You know, it meant I had to throw the keys to the restaurant back to the investors, and I didn't know if I could make a living doing this. I didn't have any proof that I could, but it seemed like over a decade of playing open mics and little gigs around Boston that it's what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I could do it or if it would work. But what I did know is if it failed miserably, I could always find more rich people and open another restaurant. Because I'd proof of that. I ended up with my first booking agent named Sean LaRoche. And you remember Sean? Yeah. And he kept saying, "Gauthier, you gotta get the fuck out of there, out of Boston. It's product confusion when I'm trying to sell you and you're in New England." He'd have a cigar. "You gotta get to the South." So that was the first voice that kind of shouted at me that as a Southern folk singer, you might want to live in the South.
Or at least Nashville.
Well, for me, it was a tie. Nashville, Austin was a tie. But then I asked Guy Clark, who had the same. I ended up with another agent after Sean named Keith Case, and Keith booked Townes Van Zandt, Guy Clark, Alison Krauss, and bluegrass acts, and he picked me up. Sean, when he passed me to Keith Case. God bless Sean LaRoche for passing me on to Keith Case, because it put me on the road with Guy Clark. And I said to Guy, "Why'd you leave Austin, Guy?" Because, if I go to Nashville, they're going to kill me. I'm really, really queer looking. And that's the buckle of the Bible Belt, if I'm not mistaken. That's the headquarters of Bible publishing. Don't Baptists run that town? This might not do so great in Nashville. Shouldn't I just go to Austin? But you left Austin. Why'd you leave Austin? And you know what he said? He said, Mary, Kathy Mattea looking for one more song for her record, and she needs a songwriter to come to the studio and play some. She's not calling them in Austin. Got to be in Nashville for that call. I said, well, what he's telling me is you want to be in the music business? And I did. And it took 20 years, but I got that call from Kathy Mattea.
Yeah.
So it was a process, and I was terrified, and I thought of it emotionally. It felt like I was going up to the top step of the high diving board at a swimming pool in the dark at midnight with no lights, and I didn't know if there's water in the pool, and I was going to be the idiot that jumped. Who goes to Nashville at 40, openly gay, and expects to succeed at music? Well, that would be Mary Gauthier. I knew that I wasn't aiming for the hit parade. I just wanted to do what Guy and Towns had done. My heroes were pretty clear. John Prine, Lucinda, Guy, Towns, David Olney, beloved member of our community. I wanted to follow in their footsteps, and they were all in Nashville. So that's why I didn't go there to stake a claim on Music Row. I went there basically because God told me I should.
And in succeeding in Nashville, can you think of a practice or I don't want to say strategy that makes it sound colder than you are, but a portal that made it possible for you to sustain yourself in Nashville? I mean, even before the Kathy Mattea call?
Yeah, well, I think the way this works, I think Julia Cameron got it right. The Artist's Way, y'all know that book. If you're firing on all cylinders as an artist, there's going to be people who are ahead of you in the journey. They're going to walk up to you and say, I don't know why the hell I'm doing this for you, but I'm going to introduce you to, and that's kind of how it's been for me the whole time. Like people almost against their own will begrudgingly help me, and they still do. They still do. There's guardian angels for lost souls like me, I think. As long as I stay sober, I've got a team over my head that's looking out for me. And there's just been a lot of help, I think Lori McKenna's better at Nashville than I ever was, and has the shelf full of Grammys to prove it. And she never lived there. She stayed with her family in Boston. She was much more suited to navigate.
In fact, not even Boston. She's in
Stoughton,
Mass, which is
She's much more suited to navigate the industry, being grounded with her family in Stoughton and coming to Nashville and writing those songs.
Strong family, strong nuclear family as a child, Lori had, and even though she'd lost her mother at a very, very young age, and a terrific husband and 5 kids. You didn't have that.
No, I'm a troubadour. Laura's not a troubadour.
And I do want to say that the heart-opening story of Mary's family is also contained in the book, and we could spend another hour and a half just on that portion. But what you did as a result of that, as a result of, we were talking earlier about perseverance, about just continuing to do it, and Artist's Way is a guide for that as well. But you needed to dig deep and really get inside yourself in order to reach out and create these songs.
Yeah, and I think that's why I wrote the book, actually, aside from the fact that they gave me money to write the book. Each chapter of the book is a song, and the song has multiple purposes, which gave me the framework of how to write the book. The chapter starts with the song, and the song is instructional on songwriting. It's also the story of my life. Each song I chose was for a particular instruction around songwriting. Each chapter a different, really important foundational understanding of songwriting. Each chapter a different and foundational aspect of my own life's journey. But the third part is the really important part to me, which is the spiritual transformation that can come from doing this work as a songwriter, how it grows us. I had to get a much, much deeper understanding of what happened to me as a child that broke me in a way that set me up to be a drug addict from day one. Like, what the hell happened there? No child runs out at 12 with their hair on fire for no reason. Something happened, and I didn't know what it was. Music and song have been how I make sense of the chaos inside me and outside of me. Joan Didion said, I write so I can read it, so I know what I think.
Yeah.
I think I have the musical analogy. I write so I can sing it, so I can know what I feel. When you're deeply traumatized, there's several things that you lose. You lose the ability to know what you know, see what you see, and feel what you feel. Trauma healing is knowing what you know, seeing what you see, and feeling what you feel. Deeply traumatized people have to have a committee vote on what they just saw. Did that just happen? Like, you've been gaslit. You've been told your eyes don't work, so you don't trust yourself. That was the me with the sign up, show up, and play laying on the floor of WUMP. I didn't have parts of me yet. And the rebuilding has been as a result of recovery, therapy, and music and song have been transformational for me. And I'm not the first or the last. And that can also work as a listener, not just as a writer, as a fan. There's songs that are so foundational to me. They gave me a missing piece of myself. And I think that's what this art form is vast. It can be absolutely, purely for entertainment, or it can be transformational and a way of alchemizing something that there's no other way to heal from. And it can all exist happily beside each other. I'm not saying this is how it should be. I'm just saying it's how it was for me and is for me. I use it to make sense of the hard stuff and to make sense of confusion.
And passing that on to others, instead of just saying, I have my songs and my truth and I'm singing them. Through the Rifles and Rosary Project, you worked with people who had been traumatized and had big pieces of themselves missing, and helped them find and dig deep and sing their own truths.
That's right. That's right. After 20 years of sobriety and 7 records, I was invited to participate in a nonprofit program started by my dear, dear friend Darden Smith in Austin, Texas, called Songwriting with Soldiers. And the organization pairs professional songwriters with wounded veterans. And I was given the opportunity for 10 years to co-write with veterans. And they're not songwriters, we're the songwriter, but they come in with the story. And so the job of the songwriter is to bear witness in non-judgment and help this person who's deeply wounded by war to tell their story. And in the process, what I felt was going on with my own songs was just validated. I could see it happening in real time, music and song, lifting some weight off of women and men who carry deep trauma. And I could see in their face transformation, a lightness that didn't exist when we sat down 2 hours ago. Because we got into resonance, where words end, music begins. And we develop a trust.
Singing what we don't dare say.
Singing what you don't dare say.
I dare say that we only have a few minutes left. Do you want to finish with a song?
I'd be happy to.
Well,
Be happy to.
I want to thank Mary for all that you do and have done, because of all that we learn from ourselves when we listen to your song. So as you go set up, I will give people the lowdown, okay?
You got it.
So we'll finish with a song from Mary Gauthier. She will be available at the back of the room to sign Saved by a Song. But we ask that you remain seated at the very end, so give her a chance to get back there so that we have a reasonably rational way to line up for that. And when we look at Saved by a Song, you want to be sure to pay attention to the subtitle, The Art and Healing Power of Songwriting. And do not doubt for one moment that those of you who are sharing your truths, who are digging deep in order to reach out to other people, do not doubt for one moment that you have healing powers. And Mary Gauthier is a shining example of that.
Well, thanks for joining us today. I really didn't expect this many people, and consequently didn't bring nearly enough books. And you can get them anywhere you get books. And I'm just grateful for the chance to talk about this, and want to encourage all the songwriters in the room just to scare yourself enough so that your voice shakes, because that's how you know it's good stuff. Well, my father sure could use a little mercy now. The fruits of his labor fall right slowly on the ground. His work is almost over. Won't be long, he won't be around. I love my father. He could use some mercy now. And my brother sure could use a little mercy now. He's a stranger to freedom, shackled to his fear and doubt. The pain that he lives in, it's almost more than living will allow. I love my brother. He could use some mercy now. My church and my country, they could use a little mercy now. As they sink into a poison pit, it's gonna take forever to climb out. They carry the weight of the faithful who follow them down. I love my church and country. They could use some mercy now. Every living thing could use a little mercy now. grace can end the race towards another mushroom cloud. There's people in power who'll do anything to keep their crown. I love life, life itself could use some mercy now. We all could use a little mercy now. I know we don't deserve it, but we need it anyhow. We hang in the balance, we dangle between hell and hallowed ground. Every single one of us could use some mercy now. Oh, every single one of us could use some mercy now. Thanks, everybody.
Music helps us understand our lives, which can be very confusing. We don't even know why we're here. You know, we go through life with so many questions unanswered. There's a lot of confusion, and music helps you make sense out of it. If you have no roots, you can't create anything meaningful that's new. You know, it's just going to be noise, really. So what's happening at Farhoff is a really big deal, because this music is so important to, not just to, it's called Americana, but it's appreciated all over the world. What's going on here at Farhoff is a beautiful thing. It's really going to be beneficial to our culture. It's going to entertain people, and it's going to educate people, and it's going to preserve a great part of American musical history. And I'm just honored to be a small part of it.